Hello, I'm Captain Andrea,
I'm Commander Matthew.
and welcome to Trek Back Tuesday.
This is the show that seeks out time and space to find new Star Trek figures and old Star Trek merchandise from across the galaxy.
And today, we are looking at Dr. Soran from the movie Star Trek Generations.
That's right, this is from Playmates from 1994. This was the first TNG film, first of four. And in terms of which one's best, which one's the worst, we can do a whole other video about that one day if you guys want to see.
This is not one of the best.
Definitely not one of the best. It's not the worst.
No.
But not one of the best either. And as far as action figures go, this is also one of the not so great moments in Star Trek toy history, for me at least, because I actually did get some of these. I remember, I think it was Christmas or Hanukkah, I guess 94. And honestly, these toys were actually what kind of got me off of Star Trek figures.
Looking at the selection, I can kind of see why.
Well, you'll see why in a little bit once we actually open up the figure, but let's just talk real quick about this box first. So the front of the box is, well, new to us because it's Star Trek Generations. It's our first time looking at that package, and it's pretty cool because we've got ourselves the Enterprise, we've got ourselves the Nexus doing its Nexus things. Otherwise, it's still the same kind of window display we've always gotten with these Star Trek figures.
But the part that I like the most is you get Kirk and Picard next to each other.
That part's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that part a lot.
It's the first time you kind of really see the captains together, at least in toy form. And on the back, you see all the other characters in the wave, which is pretty cool. So you also get to see what kind of accessories he comes with. You get the bio that they usually put. And also a fun little thing, at the end of the bio, it says, file incomplete. Further information available pending resolve of current mission.
So they're keeping this spoiler free.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's nice when toy companies don't spoil the movies they're coming from. Hint, hint, Lego. Hint, hint. Also, it shows you this little doodad.
Yeah, so on the back of the box, it mentions that coming soon is the Star Trek Deep Space Nine video game for Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo. Although on the box, it actually says Sega, Genesis.
Yeah.
So it comes on 3 systems, apparently. The Sega and the Genesis and the SNES. Wow. Future times. And that Crossroads of Time game is actually pretty decent. And there is actually, what's cool about that is that there actually was an exclusive action figure that did come as a mailway item for that game.
Really? Who was it?
It was a Cisco, but it's Cisco when we first see him in the pilot in like the next gen outfit.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the only way to get that figure, and that's one of the rarest Playmates figures out there.
I would love for us to get our hands on that.
And the figure isn't really that special, to be quite honest, because it's literally the head that came with the first release of Commander Cisco in the DS9 line, and then it's just like any generic body they use in the TNG toys at that point. So it's just really a kit bash, essentially, but it's one of the rarest figures because the only way to get it was by mailing away.
I still want us to find a way to get our hands on it, so if anyone has any leads out there, let us know. Send a communique.
And of course, this being a Star Trek toy, they're still promoting how they're all individually numbered collector's items. That never gets old.
No, it really doesn't.
And one last thing before we beam this figure out of the packaging is I want to talk about who's in this line, because it's a pretty expansive line when you think about it. But what's kind of neat here, and since this is the first time we're talking about Generations, I'll mention it here, is Admiral Kirk in his spacesuit. Do you remember that scene in the movie?
Nope.
Right, because they cut that scene from the movie, but they still made a toy of it. That was literally the opening of the movie originally, was Kirk, I guess, basically paradiving from the moon or whatever onto Earth, and he has a whole spacesuit for it.
That makes sense.
Yep.
That would be a Kirk thing for him to do.
But they cut that out of the movie entirely. And one last note is, this might be a little bit hard to see here, but I don't know if you noticed anything funny about their uniforms.
I don't know. What is it?
So what's different here, and we'll look at this one day when we actually look at the entire Generations crew line, is they're wearing the uniforms that were originally meant to be in the film, but that they pulled at the last minute.
Oh.
Because originally in Generations, they were going to have a whole new look for their outfits.
Okay.
And they decided, we're not going to do that. But unfortunately, it was too late to pull the toys, so all the toys got released in their new uniforms that we never actually saw, ever.
I kind of love that. But you know what I'm also finding really interesting as I look at this a little bit more? We also have that guy.
Worf in his 19th century outfit?
Yeah, I'm a little sad we don't have the rest of the crew in their 19th century outfit.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they didn't try and fill that void either later on.
Yeah, I mean, that was hilarious. There was just a lot of fun that could have been had with that.
Well, at least we got Worf.
Yes, we did get Worf, and I hope he has the hat.
Yeah, oh, he does.
He better. But you know what? I think we've talked about the packaging enough. Commander Matthew, let's beam Dr. Soran out.
Aye, Captain. I'll make sure to set a containment field around him, too.
Thank you.
Dr. Soran is on the bridge, and he's quite an interesting figure. Maybe not for all the best reasons, but he is definitely an interesting figure. So first things first, what do we think about that likeness? Does this look like Malcolm McDowell?
I think it's pretty reasonable. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's definitely not the worst.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty close like him. I think the eyes might be a little too Galrani, though.
The eyes are a little bit more Clockwork Orange than Star Trek Generations.
Yeah, I could definitely see that there. It absolutely looks like him from that era. The hair, especially, is definitely his 90s hair. The eyes are bulging maybe a little too much when you consider his character and what he did. It's not like he's a mad doctor. Like, he's a crazy scientist, but not a mad doctor.
Yeah, exactly. He's not like, I must get back to my laboratory.
Yeah. It's not like that creepy doctor from, was it Voyager with the... There's a lot of those.
Yeah, there are a lot. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, Captain, I know you just watched Generations yesterday, so you're definitely more fresh about this. I don't remember what he was wearing, outfit-wise. Is this what he was actually wearing? These
I don't recall that. I mean, I know he was wearing a lot of neutral colors.
These thermal pajamas he's got here.
It's not what we'd even call them, because it just looks like they painted him black and then just put a bunch of lines on him to add some texture to it. There's so little going on here, and I could have sworn he wore more. You know, I could have sworn he was in more of an earth tone palette, and that might just be what he was doing in the beginning. You know, he might have changed into something a little bit closer to this in the once he was with the Next Gen crew. But I gotta be honest, he wasn't the most memorable character.
Very true, yeah.
Even though he's, you know, the main bad guy, his story isn't the one that's the most interesting. So I wasn't paying as much attention to his clothes as I was other people.
As far as villains go, he's no Killmonger, that's for sure.
No. He's just a crazy man who just wants to get back to the Nexus, and that's cool, but... Main critique of Generations: ramp up the crazy, add more of a sense of danger, and boom, there's the tension in the story.
And so, I mean, he basically was wearing something pretty dark. I think he was wearing a jacket for some parts of it too. Maybe that's why we're not really thinking about the costume as much. But it was pretty bland, not memorable look.
Yeah, I mean, the collar part, you know, up here where, you know, by the collar, that at least looks accurate. You know, like that I'm remembering. But the rest of it is just, it's so forgettable.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because this is what brought us the weird Admiral, you know, Kirk outfits, and, you know, the way you could see kind of how the Starfleet was progressing, so there was more color there. Then you just had bleh.
Yeah. So I want to tell you my biggest pet peeve about these figures, and why these Generation figures were the last Star Trek toys I bought for about 20 years.
Well, I'm going to say that if you guys are paying close attention, you're going to know pretty quickly what the deal is.
And if you weren't able to figure it out yet, well, you're about to right now. I think it's pretty darn clear. What's missing, as I adjust Cisco's stance, is that, yeah, they got rid of a lot of articulation from the Generations figures.
Almost all of it, it looks like.
Yeah, it was really bad. You can see they're missing here these bicep swivels and elbow joints, which is, you know, pretty important, I think, and also knee joints. And around this time, we didn't have the thigh swivel that we'd have later on, but this was essentially what we had before and also after. And for whatever reason, like, this Generations line was one of the only ones, I think, to actually have non-articulated elbows and knees.
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, I had action figures that didn't really have necessarily all of the articulation that Cisco does, but it certainly had more than Soran.
Yeah.
Because Soran he basic.
And that's one of the reasons I just got so turned off from the toys.
Yeah,
and
I don't blame you. Now that we're done complaining about the lack of Soran's, you know, articulation and ability to be posed or do anything interesting, unless you want to show them his high kick.
It's pretty high, actually.
It's pretty high, but look at that turnout.
Yeah, wow.
I think it's time we move on to accessories.
I agree.
So one other cool thing that came with Dr. Soran, and it looks like it's in, you know, other
It's in all
figures.
Generation
Yeah, it's
figures,
all the
yep.
Generation figures. Is a nice little poster. Check it out.
Yeah. So it's a Star Trek Generations mini poster. It's definitely mini, that's for sure.
Very mini.
Basically, it's an 8x10, just folded up.
It's a starter poster.
That's a good way to put it. It's a starter poster.
Yeah.
It's baby's first poster.
Well, yeah, I mean, kids, you know, they don't necessarily go for the big ones right away, so...
It's an okay poster. It's
yeah,
fine.
It's nice for what it is.
Yeah, I like it. It's fine. It's got Kirk and Picard. It's got the Nexus. It's got the ship.
It's the packaging.
It is the packaging, but I like the packaging. So
it's
okay,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna start with the basic. His stand. His Starfleet issued stand. What the deuce? Like, seriously.
Yeah, I don't get it. They kind of copped out in that one, and I know, like, well, I don't really know what you necessarily do for him besides this.
You could have made a basic, or you could have given him a Klingon. There were options. We've seen other stands from different playmates, you know, so they could have come up with something. He comes with a Klingon disruptor.
which we've seen repeatedly with other figures in the past as well. So it's nothing new there. It's just
No.
nice to have it again, even though he doesn't use it. And I'll get back to that talking point in a second.
Again, he had a very special gun, and it's a shame they didn't give us that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, here he is with his disruptor. And yeah, when I was watching the movie, I was like, I really like that blaster.
Yeah,
I was
I
like, that
love
would have
that
been a great toy, in fact. And then here we are with this toy, and this is his weapon, normal Klingon disruptor. Meh.
Yeah, I don't get that. In fact, I have to say, when it comes to Generations, this current viewing is probably the first time I've stayed awake during the entire movie. I've tried watching Generations a few times. Each time I usually fall asleep at a different point, and I tend to forget the storyline half the time because it's just that meh to me. But I always remembered the gun.
Yeah, the gun's the best
The
part.
gun was very memorable. And we don't need a Klingon disruptor. But at the same time, if they're going to give a Klingon disruptor, why don't they give him a Klingon base?
Yeah, I can go with that at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
some logic there.
Yeah, they also give him, again, another confusing thing to give him. They gave him a pad. And it looks exactly like all the other Starfleet pads, you know? So I'm a little like, really? That's what they're giving him?
Yeah, just another accessory that we've gotten plenty of times before. In fact, things actually came with like the very first Playmate Star Trek figures. So, yeah, kind of boring.
Yeah.
They're kind of just scrambling to give him something. It feels like,
Yeah, I mean, then we move on to the multi-range light source.
which I don't know if we've actually gotten that before. I'm pretty sure we must have by now, though.
I feel like we've gotten maybe one. At the very least, it's a little different, and I'll appreciate that. But I mean, to be honest, the most different thing that we got was his pocket watch.
Which is a very nice accessory, actually. There's
Yeah.
some really good detail on it. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it yourself.
No, yeah, there's gorgeous detail.
It's got some really nice work on it, but I don't know if it's going to fit in his hand. Let's find out about that.
Also, do we bend it? Like, you know.
Also, stiff out the box.
Oof. Ooh, this is not crack. I mean, it'll fit, but will it stay?
Nah. Of course not. It's maybe other hand. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if you just hold his hands up higher, maybe it'll...
Yeah, it's. I don't get it. I mean, yes, Generations isn't the greatest of the movies.
No.
You know, it's not the worst, but it's definitely not the greatest. So I can understand people maybe feeling a little about it. You know, who's going to want to buy the toys from it, whatever, but this is just lazy.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about the entire Generations line. We haven't looked at all of them yet, and we will at some point when I get them all.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know, they weren't impressive. As I said, it really turned me off, really, from Star Trek as a whole at that point.
Yeah, this is beyond lazy.
Which, it does suck, too, because the head sculpt is nice.
Yeah.
It's just boring, unfortunately. And, yeah, you know, it should have been way better.
Great. So I think we both are agreeing that this is weak and lazy.
Much like Star Trek Generations.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that's our look at Dr. Soran from Playmates 1994 Star Trek Generations line. Not one of our favorites. Good to get, and you know what the plus side is he's not ever expensive. Yeah, so
That's always true.
yeah, no real loss there.
And with that, I'm Captain Andrea.
And I'm Commander Matthew, and until next time, live long and buy toys.